Hello, everybody. This is Tim League here, co-founder of Neon, and we have a very special event happening right now. So we are here with Emma the Pig and a couple of other special guests. We got John and Molly Chester at Apricot Lane Farms. And first off, I just wanted to say what a pleasure it has been working with you guys on this film. I absolutely adore this movie, and that nothing makes me happier to be able to work on movies where I really, really love everything about it. And it's not just me, it's my my twin 8-year-old girls. We've watched it together as a family many times. And today was actually a special request from our closed art house theater compatriots who have been doing virtual cinema screenings of films and had a lot of requests to bring this back and do something special. So thank you guys for spending your afternoon with us. It means a lot to the exhibition community and just the film loving community out there. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having us. This is exciting for us too. Breaks up the routine.
Well, so it was billed as really just John Chester, but I think Molly was in the neighborhood, and so I don't know if Molly's going to stick around for the whole tour. So I wanted to
she's going to stick around for the first part, and then we're going to hop some fences.
Well, I think what the drill is, we'll sort of have a casual conversation while you guys meander through the farm. And
okay.
For those that are watching, know that the farm does have some pockets of internet that's maybe not quite to city standards. And so there might be some possibilities while we're in transit where the internet drops out just a hair. But we've rehearsed this a very little bit, and we feel like we're going to be fine. And so it might be.
We just to correct you, we have not rehearsed. That's what little bit means.
So I think maybe before we get started, and then I'll just pass the tour mic to you, John and Molly. But I had multiple questions thinking about just the farm in general, the film in general, and for John, and maybe for Emma. But as you approached camera, I thought about something. The very first time I was watching the movie, where I was, becoming enraptured with everything you're doing at the farm. But I love to eat. That's a major part of my happiness. And Molly, I know that cooking and the culinary arts were part of your background, but they aren't largely focused in the film. But you're now in this amazing environment. So can you talk a little bit about how your relationship with food and cooking has evolved in your time on the farm?
Yeah, sure. So we have always had a culinary team here. It started at the very beginning. We brought in test kitchen chefs so that I could do what I needed to do on the farm and also keep creating and working with the food that's here. Because really it did come from the inspiration of figuring out that health really begins with the choices that the farmer makes. And from there, that really led to the farm. So having the culinary team and being able to do that work every day is a very important part of what we are doing. And we actually have just sold a cookbook. So we're going to be doing a cookbook, and it's going to be out in spring 2022. And I really am excited about that because I've been so focused in the farm that to be able to close that loop fully with culinary and allow people to really understand how to work with the foods that we have is something that's really important to us.
Oh my goodness, I'm very excited. Do you have an absolute favorite dish that's featured in the cookbook? Do we get a little sneak preview? You can hold it if that's
well, sure. No, so one thing that we've worked so hard on is that when you grow or raise pastured birds, they're really tough when you cook with them. So we have worked so hard to figure out how to make them moist and delicate. And the key is to really treat them like a tough meat, like a shoulder meat on an animal. And so you have to use a slow cooking temperature to get where you need to go. So that's one that will be in the book, and we're super proud of that.
Very nice. We raise city chickens here. It's not quite what you do, but
city chickens. Well, city chickens are tough.
Well, that's the problem. We've eaten several because I'm not very good at sexing the chickens, and every once in a while, a male comes into the chicken coop, and that's not allowed. And so then we have a coq au vin scenario. So I'm in desperate need for your tough bird recipe. I will
there
follow
you
up.
go. That's
Is there
great.
is there a date for the cookbook and a name?
It's going to be out spring 2022, and we haven't settled on the name, but it very well could be the Apricot Lane Farms Cookbook. So we'll see how that settles.
Okay. Well, I'm sure a good Google search can get us there. So awesome.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, before we start walking, I'm going to do a counterpoint question for you, John,
Sure.
because your background is in film, which is why, in part, that the movie is so gorgeous. I happened to just check into IMDb and notice that this is your last credit, and it's 2018. I can't even fathom how you did both farming and a film, but will you ever return to film? Is 2018 the final credit in your film, or are you thinking about continuing on?
Well, every year that every film that I ever made, I always quit the business, at least for 6 months. But this was a huge feat for my wife and I, our family, and the farm, to be able to make a film while also going through what we went through. And I thought it was over, but I think we've just built such a nice team around what we're doing here at the farm and the opportunity to tell more stories and more deeply. So we're working right now on continuing the sort of storytelling from The Biggest Little Farm as a series. That is home to be determined. But we're really excited about it because we actually never stopped filming from the day that we completed, the movie.
Well, that was actually secretly the answer I was looking for and hoping
Yeah,
for. But I didn't want to, play my hand before we got on it. So
I mean, it could be another feature film. You never know. We haven't, we always say it's a feature film or a series, and we've collected a tremendous amount of stories just in the last 7-8 months. But I'm excited about the storytelling process again, especially because after the movie, I think people are curious for the next layer of information about what's happening on a scientific level, but also they want to see the characters. They want to understand how an interconnected ecosystem works. They want to know those players. But I think really the film was a chance for us to sort of open people's minds and hearts and sort of turn on that curiosity to just go a little deeper. And really that's to me, the curiosity part of it is the method with which we will sort of change agriculture,
Do you have any sense, because you had a lot of folks come through the farm, interning, helping, working on the farm, and a lot of people seem like they're young who are looking to this for inspiration. Have you been able to, Johnny Appleseed, has there been in the 2 years since we've last joined you on screen, has anybody followed your inspiration and done their own thing?
Yeah, from the farm, I would say we have something called, an apprentice program here. We also work with Wolf Worldwide Opportunity on organic farms, which is an international database of farms that allow volunteers and interns to work or to come and experience the farm. So from that program, we've had a lot of them go on and work on other farms, and even quite a few, probably 6 at least, who have started their own operations, from the Pacific Northwest all the way down into Florida, et cetera.
And then just people that we hear that haven't come through the farm at all that are inspired by the film and going on to do really great things in the world. That's been one of the most encouraging things.
Yeah, a lot of people who have decided to buy farms.
Yeah, you've inspired me, but I haven't gone quite that far, guys. I have a really nice garden, but that's it.
That's good.
So we lured people to this attraction with the idea of a tour of the farm, and here I am gobbling up the time. So
we're gonna do a mini tour. You want to kind of meander around a bit now?
And I'm gonna peel off and go back down to Bodie. But it was really nice to see everybody, and thanks for spending time with us.
Thanks, Molly.
Can I have my earpiece?
Oh yes.
She's got my other earpiece. Thank you. All right, so we're standing in front of the pond that I think you all saw sort of become revitalized in the film, and we're going to walk over, and we have some chickens in a pasture over here, and one of our guardian dogs, my favorite guardian dog, named Corey. And feel free to ask questions while I'm walking, Sam.
Yes.
Hopefully it's, yeah, tell me if I start to break up, okay?
Well, maybe I'll give you my big picture question. Well, two. I have two like big picture questions. We're obviously in a super strange time right now with coronavirus, and one of the early stories, and I've sensed it here in Austin. Also, just personally, was that local and independent farms started to thrive, and the big industrial farms weren't able to really manage the radical change. And it sort of put forth I don't know, holes in the system. So what if you had like a magic wand, and maybe there was different leadership in our country, and you had an unlimited budget, like what would you do to change agriculture globally to fix what is obviously a broken system of our food supply?
I think one of the biggest things that we're seeing is that, you know, like with what's happening with the meat packing industry and the processing plants closing down, years ago there were probably 100 times, maybe 1,000 times more processing plants in this country, and they were small operations, serving, taking and processing from small local farms and directly selling it to local communities. And that's all been sort of cut off through USDA regulations. There's something actually called the Prime Act that has been proposed, and that sort of puts the rights for small processing facilities to be able to process meats without a USDA certification, because that's like $1 million investment for a small processor to do that. So the unfortunate reality is that small farms really don't have the ability to feed their local communities. And so to answer your question, I think what we need to do is move towards a model where the regulations look at how they're sort of regulating things with the mindset of food safety that is actually preventing people access to local food that is far healthier than, say, an industrially grown food product that's higher in carbohydrates and lower in nutrient density. So whatever we can do to put the control of the consumer and the small local farms back into a direct relationship, that's really the model forward. Mm-hmm. Including how he regulates on-farm stores and individuals being able to access farmers markets and even having farmers markets, et cetera. I mean, that's really for us how a farm like this is going to work. We make 3 times as much money by selling directly to the public versus going through a packer and then a retail outlet.
Yeah. I don't want to get too heavy. We're on a beautiful pastoral farm tour, but it's an interesting window of time where the problems of our system have been very clearly identified, and perhaps there is hope for some legislation to come through.
Absolutely, there's great opportunity, and that I think we've actually had. Been doing the best business we've done in 8 or 9 years. So many people were having a hard time getting local or just fresh food that are, we started a CSA operation. I don't know if it will continue, but meaning I don't know whether it will be popular after COVID regulations are lifted. But I will say there's been a CSA, consumer sort of supported buying cooperative. Okay. So they essentially buy in advance monthly, and they get a weekly large assorted box from our farm. And that's the thing, is that smaller farms like ours, tend to, especially when they're growing in a regenerative way, they grow more diversely. So there is a variety of things. I'm not growing 500 acres of corn or 500 acres of just blueberries. We grow 250 different things, which is insane and far too many. So if you're trying to model what we do, don't do that. Well, I'm standing in front of one of the chicken coops. I don't know if you can see them or how far. Tell me if I start to break up.
So far, so good.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
Can you guys see can you see the chickens down there?
I can. Yeah. So the film portrayed the coyotes as your biggest villain, the foe of the chickens. Is that how is that manifested after? There's always raccoons. There's foxes. How's your chicken stability these days?
Well, we have a really good guardian dog. We had 2, but unfortunately one passed away But we have a really good guardian dog now with the chickens, so we have not had any issues since that time. One of the good guardian dogs is right here. But yeah, so the coyote problem, nothing is forever. There's never a solution that, I'm gonna probably get shocked as I do this because there's an electric fence. You guys want to come in? Oh, and this, here, speaking of why the chickens are safer, this is Corey. Hey, Corey, look.
Hi, Corey.
Hi. He's our biggest guardian, and he's got his summer cut because we get these foxtails, basically these seed heads that get dug into these guys, and it's really bad. So we have to give them these really sort of screwy haircuts. But no, the coyote situation is mostly, I would say, at least for the time being, under control, and they're really staying busy hunting gophers and rabbits. And the cool thing is that every generation passes down sort of what is sort of the opportunity within that biome to hunt. And so the further away we get from those attacks, the more that the next generations are not really even informed with the idea that the opportunity is chickens. I mean, at least that's what I tell myself at night.
I can't tell what exactly your dog has in its mouth. It got a little something.
Oh, he caught a gopher.
Oh, look at there.
I don't know if that's too much. I mean, maybe that's too much for this one.
That's just the cycle of life.
Yeah. That's crazy. We didn't plan that. Good job.
How many chickens do you maintain right now?
We've got about 800 chickens. And then we do, we're going to be doing up to about 3,000 roasters a year. And these are all very relatively small numbers. The 800 birds or so are mainly layers. That really goes to service our farmers market and CSA supporters.
So we touched upon it a little bit, but maybe you can talk, it has been 2 years since the film came out. And in that time, what's changed, what's gotten better, what's gotten worse, and maybe what was unexpected about having the film out into the universe in the wake of all this? Well,
we weren't really sure what to expect when the film was released. I gotta say, if we I think it went 100 times beyond what we could have ever imagined, and so that's been really incredible for us. And there was another part to your question, that what's really changed, I think, over time. People ask a lot of times, do you still have the same issues? Do you still have problems with gophers? Do you still have problems with other pests, and et cetera? And I think that's the thing we actually learned, is that, you look at problems differently, because there is a rhythm and a cycle to these things. And you realize that essentially your greatest tool is your first, number one, your ability to swallow the humiliation you feel and shame you feel amidst failure. Because typically the failure embarrassment factor is what drives you to a domination sort of solution, where you dominate. I always say, like, domination without orientation. You dominate something without understanding and orienting why it even exists. And so over the last few years, I would say there's a lot more understanding and awareness that if we take our time with it, we're patient, and we swallow that embarrassment, that we will, through curiosity, find a deeper way to connect with a solution that actually has a longer lasting and more regenerative / sustainable effect. And I think that's, the last 2 years have been a lot easier on both Molly and I, from an anxiety level and just sort of the fear management level.
That's embarrassment and anxiety, I have to imagine, like most farmers, new farmers even, are facing those challenges without the constant roll of a camera. Like, how does the mere fact of documenting your work, and honestly documenting your failure, how does that affect how you address the failure or amplify it? How it must be intense.
Well, I have two answers to that question. During the making of the film, as the first answer, I would say I was at times self-editing. and I had a team of interns that were really here to learn how to farm, that I showed how to use cameras, and some of them had a little experience. And I would just say, film stuff no matter what happens. And I would realize that I would start to self-edit because I was terrified in certain situations. And then I'm like, well, what story am I going to be telling? And if it needs to be unflinchingly raw and honest. And so I had this moment of clarity, and I pulled the team into the barn, and I said, I'll never say this again. No matter what I say after it, don't listen. Just listen to what I say right now. Now, if I tell you to stop rolling, all you have to do is go back 10 feet and keep rolling, because I'm gonna be in situations where I feel completely out of control and embarrassed. And they did that, and a lot of that stuff is what showed up in the film, and I'm thankful that that's what happened. And then I would say, today it's I like it when we think that we have figured out a way to more environmentally friendly hack into the system, and it fails, because I think you need to share with people these experiences with a sense of humility, because if we become self-righteous with what we think we understand about nature, we stop learning about how it really works. I mean, we are only scratching the surface in our human existence and truly understanding what the top 12 inches of soil even does. And it is the entire life alchemizer of the entire planet. And so I think to me, it's important that we also show farmers like us who are trying to do regenerative, that we show the failures in the process, even when we think that we've done it right. So I'm hoping that we maintain that.
We have a question from Tiffany. It's a technical question. You've already said, I believe it was around 800 chickens. How many eggs a day does your entire chicken flock?
Gosh, like a couple hundred eggs a day in our best, and then let me just take a drink. Like 150 to 200 some eggs a day. Is it more than that? 300? They're saying more. I don't keep track of the numbers at this point. But it also depends on the amount of light, that we have in a given period. And we do light the chickens, meaning we do use a light that comes on in the winter times when there's not enough daylight to help continue to have those chickens laying year round, because for us to afford to farm in this way, we need to make sure that they are producing eggs.
Got it. Well, shall we mosey to another spot on the farm?
So we're going to meet the queen. Are you ready to meet the queen?
I think so.
Yeah. You need to be a little more enthusiastic.
Yes, yeah. Bring it on. Let's see that queen.
I'm talking about the monarchy, man.
I'm excited.
You're gonna meet two. You're gonna get a bonus here.
Oh, nice. Are we heading to the star of the show?
We can't let. We're trying not to let the dog in with the pigs. That might not be good. Yeah, so we're in, Emma's normally out in this pasture, but we've locked her in her sort of sleeping area so that we could have Corey up here for you guys, because we don't have internet down where the sheep are. So we've got on the right is Bella. That is Emma's great granddaughter. And on the left is the queen. Let's go over and say hi to her. Tell me if you can hear as I get up. Emma, there's a few people that'll say hi. Can you hear that? So Emma's a little over 9 or so now, and she weighs about 650 pounds.
Wow.
After the film, she packed on another 200. She's in full retirement now.
What's the lifespan of a typical pig?
Well, from what I've read, 12 to 14 years. I've only been farming for nearly 9 to 10, but I've read 12 to 14 years, and we've tried to give her an easy retirement. She still has to work. She has to walk up and down hills every day, which is good for her, and she's got a nice big old fat wallow down there. And I think having a younger pig around her kind of keeps her on her toes, because then she's got to kind of like look at her garden, her food bowl, in fact. And then this is Bella, the submissive granddaughter, who's actually about a week and a half away from having a litter of her own.
My goodness. We have another question from out in the universe. You know, when we did the aerial shots of farms around Apricot Lane, not many people were doing your style of farming. Has there been anybody in your surrounding, in your area, that has taken note and has changed their ways in any shape or form?
Yeah, and you know, in the beginning, there was a lot of unintentional, I think, shaming from neighbors. They didn't understand, and they would ask us. They would say things like, "You can't feed the world with this way of farming," and you know, it'll never work out here, and you need too much water. And a lot of those folks have come around in the recent years and actually asked us, you know, started sharing information with us and asking us questions about how things, you know, why aren't we facing such high, you know, thrip damage numbers in our avocados, and even asking about the ducks, crazy enough, and how the duck snail control situation. And I think people are starting to realize that no matter of all the things we do, oh, here comes Bella to check things out. Of all the things we do, I would say the most important thing that really does work on many other farms is just growing cover crop to build soil, to cycle soil nutrients, and all the great things that does. Copious amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. It's one of the amazing things about regenerative farming is that as you increase soil organic matter, it literally requires tons and tons of, I'm between two very large pigs, tons and tons of carbon to be pulled out of the atmosphere in the process.
Nice.
So I think there's a lot of interest in cover cropping in this county. Not a lot, but there's increasing interest in cover cropping in this county and the benefits to soil development.
It's somewhat related, but you know, imagine yourself back when you got started and you knew not a lot, right? And now you're wiser. You've learned a lot the hard way. It's been burned in. I'm hoping that people continue to be inspired by your story and continue to do wild and bold, crazy moves and go out and do similar farms all over the country, all over the globe. What would you tell your younger, greener self that you now know that would have been really helpful in that first year?
I wanted so badly to believe in the beginning when we started this. I wanted so badly to believe that it was possible, but not so deep down inside, I had a tremendous amount of skepticism, which I think I quite honestly shared in the making, you know, in the film, the way the film was structured and the way I was presenting myself. I wish that I didn't waste so much time on doubting what I hoped was true. I think that the fear part of that process prevented me from seeing things more quickly. Mm-hmm. I don't say you should ever walk off the cliff with advice from a consultant as if were prescriptive and not question things. But I just wish I had trusted the process of biodiversity and the regeneration of the diversity of healthy soil as a method for building the immune system of the farm that we were trying to build. And so I think I would tell my younger self, you know, don't doubt it. And, you know, if you build it, they will come. Mm.
Well, I mean, the beautiful part about the film is that you've proven that, you know, in the first act of the film, we don't know if you're going to fall flat on your face and be a complete failure, and we don't know the trajectory of the film, right? But your story has given people that understanding that with patience, with care, you can. This is possible. So I think,
and with the belief of a lot of other young people, you know, that's really what built the farm, is a lot of young people who believed that this was possible in those first 9 years. A lot of them are full-time, you know, members of our team here now, and have gone on to make this farm even far better than what it was even 4 years ago.
Totally different direction. You guys used to live in the city. You don't live quite in the city anymore. Is there anything, or what do you miss the most about being a city dweller? Or is there absolutely nothing? It's vastly superior in every possible way on the farm.
I miss good coffee. That's it. You know, I miss that opportunity to go down and have some good coffee. But obviously right now, during this situation we're all in, I'm quite grateful that we are that we went through what we went through to sort of be able to live in a place like this. But I think what everybody needs, regardless of what they say, is some sense of community. And we've been able to reinvent that up here at the farm. And aside from that, I think good coffee is something I miss.
All right. Well, I guess I was thinking I could send you some beans, but you put that on the internet. So it's somebody making you a beautiful cup of coffee too. It's kind of wonderful.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So there's another question that came in from our audience, which is, after so many years of filming, how did you know it was time to turn the footage into a feature documentary? You could theoretically keep on shooting forever and never, or was there a turning point, a moment that said, I think we've formed our narrative?
Yeah. So I think once I had enough examples of where the problems that we were following and tracking over that 8-year period had solutions that were visually captured in a way that was cinematically stunning. And I knew in the making of this film that I was like, the only way that this story won't work is if I don't give it the cinematic justice that it deserves, because not many people would be able to spend the time from within the engine of the story, within the engine of an ecosystem, being able to actually see that stuff and know the value of magnifying that on a large screen. And so once I had all those shots finally captured, I felt that I actually had a story really worth telling. And in the making of in the editing process, the farm became surrounded by one of the largest fires at the time in state history. And that ended up making it in the film as well. But that wasn't even a part of the original plan. We were literally editing at times, and we'd be running out the door with the drives to get them safely away from the barn.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting you talk about the the beautiful shots in the film, and I think people don't. You don't process that as a viewer a lot of times it's in the back. It's in the back of your head, but when you see like truly beautiful shots, or on the converse, sound that's not recorded quite so well and you have to struggle with it, it does pull you out of the experience. And there's something about the film that the farm just washes over you, and it's so powerful and it's so beautiful. So thank you for
that's nice to say. And I think that's so important, because all the hard stuff it's very easy to allow that hard stuff to roll off your back when you live and surround yourself within an aesthetically arresting environment. And I think that's what's happened, is that farms have turned away from the cultivation of beauty. And beauty, quite ironically, comes from diversity. The diversity of flowers, the diversity of animals. And those things, I think, are very stimulating. Even on your worst days, it's hard to say, well, I'm going to give up on all of this. So I wanted the audience to have that same experience and feel that immersion within the beauty and the diversity that sort of was motivating us to keep going every day.
Well, I mean, speaking of keeping going every day, because there's a question that came in. I'm gonna use that to frame this person's question, but also expand upon it. The question is about balancing filmmaking career with your life on the farm. But I also want to think about when it was really intense, when the farm is just developing, but you're maintaining a rigor of shooting, and then when the film is done, you're putting together a feature film, which it's a full-time job. And we all know, or more than we do actually, that farming is a full-time job as well. So was there a rhythm that you set up? Was there, this is film time, this is farm time, and what was your cadence like on a given week?
I always well, first of all, like about the last 2 to 3 years of the making of the film and the farm, so like after year 5, I brought in some really experienced cinematographers that I'd worked with on other shows, and experienced producers. Sandra Keats came in around 2.5 years before the film was finished, I think. So she's over there, and that really is what made it easier to sort of like put a button on all the things that we really were trying to still capture. Because the best thing about farming is that it's a rhythm that happens and repeats almost every year, and you do get very similar circumstances. And so that was a really important, that's an important thing to sort of to mention. And then I always carried a camera around in my truck, and so there was always a dilemma of like, oh gosh, should I shoot this? This is happening. Is it going to be important? But I remember just as a documentary filmmaker that the regret of not shooting something is far more painful than the time you waste to shoot something. You know, the pain of regret is terrible as a filmmaker. So you end up just shooting everything. We had 92 terabytes of footage by the time it was all over.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say that is the marker of a very skilled filmmaker. That is the marker of a hoarder. And an editor who ended up being quite upset to hear how much footage I was going to have to. Amy Overbeck, who edited the film, when I told her how much, she said, "Yeah, we're going to need at least a year, maybe a year and a half."
Is that how long it took for the?
Sandra was about a year, a little over a year. Here, come say hi. Here's Sandra. You got to see the producer who. This is Sandra.
Hello.
With me during the last solid, how long was it? 2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Of her life, and she tried to quit the film business. Yeah, to become a goat farmer. And I was told that there's this great producer, but she's quitting. And I convinced her. I'm like, well, just come to the farm. Why don't you? I'm like, why are you quitting the business? She's like, I'm going to become a goat farmer. And then I think during the touring,
documentaries will do that too.
Yeah, documentary. Everybody quits after their films are made. And here she is.
Yeah.
How long have you been here now?
3.5 years.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Still here.
And if she tries to leave, we're going to buy her. We're going to buy her a goat. Yes. She'll do goat yoga.
How much bigger is the farm since we last saw it on screen, or is it still the same size, or are there new avenues or ventures or crops or exciting things? What are you most proud about since 2018?
Everything's just gotten a little bit healthier. We have new issues. You have new fungal diseases that we're facing in the orchards, mainly because our cover crops have gotten so healthy. And who knows? It's always a mystery as to where these problems start. But I think the thing I'm most proud of is the work we're doing. We're not there totally yet, but is the work we're doing around really building the community of the team that is here, and focusing on the way we communicate and the way we prioritize things and the way we express concerns and frustrations with processes, because it's a very complicated system. It's like 7 farms in one. You've got the fertility team, which we call the VC. You've got garden team, you've got orchard team, you've got livestock, which really is anything with 4 legs. You've got the poultry operation, and now we've got like a little story team, and we've got culinary that's trying to create added value product, and then you've got your market staff and all the team that actually gets it to the consumer. And that's really been what Molly and I are learning now, I think, is how to manage, an ecosystem of people. We've built the immunity of the soil, and now it's about building the immunity in the way that we sort of work as a cohesive organism.
How big is that from just a number of human beings?
Sorry. So, the farm itself is 214 acres, and then we are about 20 some agricultural workers. Mm-hmm. And then once you start to add in all those other elements like some seasonal picking and packing crew, events team, etc., it can go anywhere up to 60 to almost 70 people at certain times of the year.
Wow. How many people live on the property?
I think there's probably about 12 people that live on the property full time, give or take. Yeah. And that was the cool thing about the place. It was an old horse farm, and it had a lot of dilapidated, but it had a lot of smaller structures on it. And that really is, that's something else that really helps small farming operations, is to be able to provide housing in some capacity for their teams to just take a little bit of the pressure off of a very diverse operation like this.
We did get another question in from the audience, and you've touched upon it, but I don't know if you want to expand upon it. I will honor the question. It's what is your and you've expressed some of these,
Mhm.
the television program, or whatever it's going to be, the series, the video series, or maybe the next feature film. But
Mhm.
next challenges and goals for you and Molly, personally, maybe, and at the farm.
The next challenges or goals, is that what you said?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think Molly birthing a cookbook is going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
Um, I think for us, it's really about continuing to drive as much opportunity as possible to be able to sell our product directly to the consumer. You know, the farmers markets were something relatively new for us in the last probably 2 years, and we're in about 4 or 5 right now. Yeah, 4. It's a fluctuating number based on season and trying to figure out the perfect markets for us. We're in Calabasas, Santa Monica, Mar Vista. What's that? And yeah, and COVID took a lot of numbers out of the market. But you know, I think that really is the thing: is that for a farm like this to become economically stable, it's really creating, you know, for a lack of a better word, you have to be your own brand. You really have to kind of, you know, be selling as directly as possible. So that's really where we are as a farm, and I think the rest of it is just sort of maintaining the health and the husbandry techniques that we've adopted over the years to sort of make our life easier and the animals a lot healthier, and the food tastes a lot better.
I just wanted to verify, because we stopped with Emma. Are there any other stops on the tour, or is this our final stop?
This is our final stop as far as it concerns distance that we will be risking losing Wi-Fi connectivity.
Got it. Well, we've more or less hit the end of our allotted time, and but I did just want to close again by thanking you both for taking the outrageous leap so many years ago to do this. And you know, obviously I mentioned, and everybody knows, we're in strange times, and this is, to me, exactly the type of movie, exactly the type of story that is really beautiful and inspiring during these times, to really reflect upon what's important, to reflect upon the flaws of our current food system, and to just experience something beautiful and wonderful and inspiring. So I am excited that you're going to continue to inspire people, both with the cookbook, the new episodic universe of what's happening on Apricot Lane. So thanks for doing awesome stuff.
I appreciate that. I mean, thanks for your interest and support, Tim. You've really been there for us from the beginning. And I appreciate that. And I think, you know, we're all sort of collectively experiencing multiple ways in which the diversity of our planet is facing challenges with its own immunity. You know, and I think, you know, the farm is a microcosm of what's happening in the greater ecosystem. And the principles of regenerative farming are really about bolstering the immunology of your farm. And right now, I think what we're all experiencing is, you know, how our immune systems are being rocked through a lack of diversity in our gut microbiome, and a lack of diversity and an erosion of diversity in our planet's ecosystem, which is its immune system. So I think it's a good time to be having these conversations. And I know that there's so many young people that are just so interested in this stuff. And I actually have great hope for the future of our planet, mainly because of where I see young people coming from and the questions that they ask.
I do too. Well, have a wonderful weekend, and can't wait to touch base when either cookbook or episodic series are ready for the world. So you keep on doing it, and we'll see you next time.